Today is the 16th Sunday of the year C. And the first reading of the Gospel today center around the theme of hospitality, compassion to the weary, reaching out to those in need. The first reading is from the book of Genesis, chapter 18, from verse 1 to 10. And it is that famous passage where Abraham welcomed these three strangers who were passing by his house. He invited them with the following words: I beg you, if I find favor with you, kindly do not pass your servant by. A little water shall be brought. You shall wash your feet and lie down under the tree. We may ask ourselves, did Abraham know them? Did he have any prior knowledge that they'll be passing by? Did he prepare for them? The answer to these questions is no. But he saw the need, he saw their weariness, he saw this as an opportunity to be human, to reach out, to be hospitable, to show compassion. That aspect of the human nature that always reaches out and shares with those in need. Again, Abraham didn't do this intending to receive any appreciation or gratitude or praise or reward. He did it selflessly. He did it just to give some respite to these strangers. Yet in doing them and doing them freely, he was rewarded with the promise of a son. This has become a passage that we always use to challenge people to see others as human beings, irrespective of who they are. To reach out to others in need, not minding who they are. Yes, he invited them, he lured them with these words, but eventually he went beyond what he said, prepared a banquet for them. The food strengthens them to continue on this journey. In fact, through this food, as the subsequent passages of the book of Genesis would tell us, through this act of charity, act of hospitality, Abraham became a friend of God, that God had to reveal to him what he intended to do. This is an act done selflessly, without counting the loss, without intending to gain anything. It wasn't like an investment. But yet, no act of hospitality goes unnoticed before God. God sees it all, and God rewards it. This already prepares us for what we see in the Gospel. The Gospel of Luke chapter 10 from verse 38 to 42, where these two sisters, Martha and Mary, hosted Jesus. This episode, this passage, has become a way of talking. That when we see someone that is so much involved with service, we call the person Martha. And maybe the one we think is contemplative, we call the person Mary. This is also sometimes we use it to balance this tension between activity and contemplation. Is there any kind of dichotomy between the two? Martha was doing something noble, providing for Jesus, preparing the meals, preparing the place. But Jesus also needed someone to be by his side, to listen to him. The problem wasn't that Martha was serving or Martha was preparing the meal or that Martha was busy. No. The issue here was that Martha was distracted. She was anxious. She was fretting about everything. Unlike Abraham and his wife who did this happily, Martha was doing it grumbling, complaining. Do you not care, she said, that my sister is leaving me to do this serving all by myself? Do you not care? Sometimes we are so much involved with the work of the Lord that we abandon the Lord of the work. Sometimes we are so much involved that we even complain, I don't have time to pray. I'm so busy to go to church. I'm so busy to pray. I'm so busy to have a day of recollection. I am so busy to have a retreat. Is that a good reason? A good excuse? Talking about this passage, St. Teresa of Avila talks about contemplation and action. We need both Martha and Mary to host Jesus. We need both of them to make Jesus happy. We need both of them in each one of us. Because just like in the Carmelite tradition, our prayer life, our activities, our actions stem from our prayer life. The fruit of the prayer, the fruit of being with Jesus is what we share with others. We stay with Jesus, we learn from him, we listen to him, we become his friends, we relate with him, and then he sends us out. Where Mary was at the foot of Jesus is a place of the disciple, the one that is called to listen, and in listening, learn and eventually be sent out to go and serve. So it's not about who is Martha or who is Mary, but having these two elements, having these two aspects in us, being 100% contemplatives, those who listen to the word of God, who discern the will of God, and being 100% active in responding, because now we minister, we serve as Jesus would serve. After all, he said, I came not to be served, but to serve and to give my life as a ransom for many. He had that moment to be with the Father, to pray. And those moments as well to reach out to the people, to feed them, to attend to their needs. We should have this balance in our lives, these two aspects. We shouldn't tend towards one at the expense of the other. We also have some Carmelite saints who have taught us how to do this. Lawrence of the Resurrection, Blessed Lawrence of the Resurrection, for instance, talked about the ever-abiding presence of God. Be in the presence of God at all times. He was a community cook, a lay brother. But then he understood that and said, even in the pans, even in the kitchen, recognizing that there, the presence of God still abides. And you do everything as though you are doing it in the presence of God, because actually it is in the presence of God that you do this. It is not an impossibility to do. Venerable John of St. Samson also did the same, talking about the prayer of aspiration. That every time in whatever we do, we always lift our souls, our hearts, our minds up to God, raise them up to God in whatever we do, wherever we find ourselves. We never depart from the presence of God. But do we recognize it? Do we allow the worries of this world to take this noble presence away from us? And that is what Jesus meant when he said, Mary has chosen a better path and is not to be taken from her. My dear friends, let us make conscious effort to live by this, marrying the activity and contemplation, having a good balance, knowing the importance of God, our being with God, our relating with Him, and through that, relating with others. These are the two sides of the same coin. Love of God and love of neighbor. Giving to God what is His due, and giving to others what is their due. This is the invitation of our reading today. And remember, when St. Teresa talked about prayer, he said, prayer is taking out time frequently to be with the one we know loves us. Frequently, at all times. Not only when we are in the church, not only during set out times for prayer, but at all times, serving the Master, His Majesty, and serving Him also in those we come in contact with, as Abraham did and was blessed by it.